Welcome to Riding Mower King. In this video, we're getting back to this edger. And this came in for a no start that I did a previous video on this. I have the engine all apart already here. If you look at that previous video, I'll try to put a link. You can see why we're going to be putting another engine on this. The customer actually decided to change the engine. So I went to Harbor Freight. It's supposed to be a direct fit. But looking at the engine in the store on the shelf, I did see one issue already that's going to have to take a little bit of modification or conversion in order for this to work. But I think it will bolt right onto the chassis. It's just that the drive pulley is going to need a little bit of changing around. So the issue that I saw with the drive pulley is this is actually a two-piece pulley. I had this off already. This is a two-piece pulley. And if you try to measure this shaft size, that's actually not really a good size. Doesn't really equal out to anything that would be a shaft size on a replacement engine. So we're going to take this bolt out of here, and we'll see why that is. So like I said, it's a two-piece pulley. It's got a key molded into it. So there's the pulley right there. This shaft size has a step in it. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a shoulder right here. So this is neck down to 5/8. This is a standard size. And this here is just a little bit bigger because for some reason they went with a two-piece pulley. So you slide the pulley on, and the shaft is threaded. So you put a bolt in there to hold the pulley on. Yeah, it's pretty efficient. I don't know why they wouldn't just make it one piece, but they made it two-piece, and it looks like they just made one mold. And both halves are the same thing. They even have the same number. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to figure out how to overcome that little problem there. And I think it might be with a shaft collar. So we're going to get the new engine out of the box and make sure that it has compression. I'm going to look at the end of the shaft. In the store, I didn't look to see if it was threaded or anything like that. So yeah, we're going to get it out, and we're going to try to figure out this pulley arrangement. May need to go to a store and get another pulley that has set screws in it. I might have to get shaft collars or something like that. Now this isn't really going to be an unboxing video because I don't do that. But I'm going to have to take it out of the box. So here we go. Oh, nice. They give you some directions. We'll pass them on to the next person. Well, you get a spark plug socket. These look like the mounting bolts, and then you get this adapter plate, which I don't think we're going to need that. I think it's going to bolt right onto that. So it sure looks new. It's still wrapped in plastic. And there's a tag up here that says 1 and 2 before use. Oh, luckily it comes right out of the box. Doesn't look like there's anything else in there but styrofoam. Nice and light at least. So there might be a key on here since they put this cover around here. Yep, there is a key in there. And it is threaded. So we may be able to get by with just a shaft collar. We'll see how the spacing is. This shaft looks a little bit longer than what's on there. And that may be a little bit of a problem with that bracket that's there. Before use, fill gas here, add fuel stabilizer, add engine oil below, which is right here. Now this engine looks really close to that one. We're going to look at the marking, at the castings on the side, because in the picture, it didn't quite match. So the castings are actually different. It's actually not from the same mold. If we look at the replacement, we can see like these two holes here, and the spacing on those two holes there, and even the ones down there. we come up here, the spacing's totally different. You know, there would be another one like right here, and then you have the case bolt. And the same with over here. You got the one for the case, and then you only have one on the other engine. There's another one right next to it. So it's not exactly the same. The intake looks the same. You know, like the head might be the same. Nah, the mold is actually different for the head also. Like you have this little round part right here on this head. You know, we don't have that. So it is actually a different mold. It's not exactly the same. But the dimensions that matter should just match right up. So I'm going to slide the pulley on there real quick just to make sure it fits right. Well, it has just a little bit of play. Just about the same amount that's on that one. So yeah, it's just about the same amount of play, which is very, very little. It's not like it's a different size. So we'll get the bolts out of that engine, and we'll sit the new one on there and line it up so we can see how that shaft works out. See if maybe we got to change anything or modify something. So I'm going to take that engine off. Then when we come back, the new one will be sitting on there. Maybe I'll have a couple bolts in it. Oh, we got another tag here. Quick start guide. This is going to go right to the customer. That way they got the quick start directions for it and how to take care of it. I'm going to put this up on the toolbox for now. Alright, so we're sitting there where we need to be. And we are going to have to put the pulley on the shaft first. And I'm going to have to go get a pulley. Because like I said, the end of that shaft was 1 1/8 inches from that bracket, and we can see it's a little bit closer now. And where I'm at, the engine comes with this label, no E85, which we can get E85 here, but I believe this customer tries to use ethanol free, so that should not be a problem. Now I am going to pull that rope just to make sure there's compression on this engine before we go any further. So there's probably no oil in this. Well, there's a drop on the stick. But even if there's no oil in it, there should be some assembly lube to where we can at least pull the rope. So we'll make sure that that switch is off. There is compression. So that should be okay. Really, I should almost put some oil and gas in it now. But either way, if this engine's not good, we're getting the same engine, just a replacement. So we're still going to need that pulley. So we're going to go see if we can find a new pulley for this that's going to work. And then we'll be back. So here I have the engine mocked up on the edger. I have just a couple bolts in it to see how everything lines up with the shaft and the frame right next to the engine. And I just got back from Tractor Supply with a couple parts to make this part of it work together. All right, so we're back from Tractor Supply, and I decided to go with 2 shaft collars. These are solid shaft collars with 1 set screw. And the reason I decided to go with that was, well, these were only $8 for the pair, and we get to use the same size pulley, The closest pulley that they had there was a little bit bigger diameter, and it had a set screw on it, but that was almost $25. So we're going to go with the shaft collars and use the original pulley. So now I'm going to have to move the engine. I've got to take the bolts out and slide the engine over to get it onto to get everything on that shaft. So we're going to take one bolt out. And I really like to just take that whole bracket off. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the adapter plate off just because it would be easier. So is that 12 millimeter? Yes, so that's 12 millimeter. That's 12 millimeter. All right. So we're going to take some more bolts out, but it should speed up everything. And this will definitely speed up the process. All right, so that will make it easier to put the engine on the second time, especially with putting Loctite on the bolts. Okay, we just want to make sure all the bolts are in there before we put any Loctite on. Make sure all the holes are lined up. And we're using blue Loctite. Ooh, little wet, little wet. Let me see about shaking that up a little bit more. Now we'll go ahead and tighten all these up. That's that. Now we put the shaft collars on. Put on the shaft collars and the pulley. That's one. We'll put the pulley on. Once it's on, we can put the motor back on. Then we'll put the pulley where we need it. Because the thickness of the shaft collar is going to be enough that it's going to be thin enough that we're still going to be able to get the pulley where we need it, even with that collar on the end of the shaft. We just snug that down so it don't fall off while we're putting it on. Get some of these old parts out of the way here. Now there's definitely going to be some leftover screws on this project. But there shouldn't be any extra holes in what we're done putting together. Just going to be extra screws. All right. So there we are with that. Now we'll put these mounting bolts back in. All right, so now the motor is mounted. So now we're going to go 1 1/16 inches from the edge of the pulley to this bracket. Because I believe that's what it was. I'm not going to hit rewind and check. You guys might though. I don't doubt that at all. And that's okay if you want to check and make sure. Well, that definitely doesn't look straight. But the customer had said before that something looked crooked down here. All right, so we got the pulley good and tight. That looks pretty straight like that. That looks pretty straight. How does that look? That looks pretty good right there in the camera like that. That's what we're going to go with. So now we can put this cover back on. Once we figure, uh-oh, I think this bolted onto the engine. This could be a little bit of a challenge here. We got one bolt that's going to match up and one bolt that's not. Well, that's not good. That's one of the problems with using a different block with a different casting. It almost seems like a different thread. Yeah, that looks like fine thread, and this looks like not. Yeah, that's definitely not the same. Oh, that's one more problem with changing engines. Those are the same. These here are going to be smaller, so they're not even going to be a... But that definitely looks like a fine thread, where these are standard. Well, they're metric, but these are probably 150. Those are probably 125. That only matters if you really want to put the guard back on the belt, which, yes, we want to put the guard back on the belt. I'm starting to think they're not metric. Okay, so I found a bolt that fits in there, and I used my thread file. I have a rethreading kit with thread files that you can put against here and actually see what size this is. And it appears to be a 5/16/24, which is a fine thread. And this one screws in here nice. So that's what we're going to go with. So for the sake of finishing up this video, getting this thing operational, I'm not going to go to the hardware store right now to find two bolts 5/16/24 like this. I'm going to go tomorrow maybe. But I am going to put this cover on, which I may have to cut out a little bit, because actually with this shaft collar, this cover does not fit. So yeah, I may end up cutting that cover out a little bit there. But this is what you run into with putting a different engine on. It's not exactly the same. The mounting pattern is the same. It bolted right on there. But, you know, the shaft is a little bit different length, and the bolt pattern here is different, and the threads are different. So we're going to have to make some modifications to this cover in order to put it back on there. So the engine's mounted, the belt's hooked up, it's tensioned up again. I took the pliers off. So now we're going to put some oil in here. So we can get ready to fire this up. Now we're not really ready yet. I got to hook up the kill wire to the handle. We still want that to be functional to where you let go of the handle and it stops running. Okay, so we're going to add oil now so we don't get caught up in the moment and try starting it without oil in it. We definitely don't want to forget that. Now, probably in the instructions, there's a place that tells you how much oil goes in here. But on the plug there, there's a dipstick, so you don't have to read the instructions. You can go by the dipstick. Now, that's probably not nearly enough yet. All right, so we are now above add. We're above low. So now sometimes there might be a little question as to, do you screw it in or not to check the oil level? Well, on this one, the high mark is right there, right below the threads. It's only that far away. So if you didn't screw this in, the high mark would be most of the way up the threads. And right now it's already there. So like I said, the oil is in the threads already, and it's only halfway up there. So if you were to try and make it full without threading it in, it would be at the top of the hole for sure. So now we're going to thread it in here. And it's right at the H line right there. And it's part way up the threads. I can see it. So we're going to go with that being full. And I'm going to go with that being the right way to do it on this engine. Other engines may be different. But that's what I'm going with on this one. So we're going to say that the oil is full. So now the last part of the conversion, besides that belt guard, which is going to be some fabrication, is hooking up this kill wire here to this, and then we need to hook up the ground wire yet, coming back from the switch. So I'm gonna cut both of them off and just connect them together. Now this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to use a butt connector here. And these are not the cheap ones. These are from Lowe's. I have used the cheap ones before, and the barrel in those is just, it's a lot thinner than these. These are good ones here. The cheap ones will not hold the wires together. And we're not going to get overly complicated on this. We're just going to connect them together. Once we get the wire to stick out here. Let's try doing it this way. I don't believe that's going to fit though. Now let's see how that works. All right, that's one. All right, so we're good on that. We're gonna kind of wire this so it stays down there where it belongs. Then we got to hook up the ground. And I believe that was on the cover on the bottom of the engine. Yeah, that was right there. So we're going to see about, maybe we come up. This one, the screws are at a different spot. And I do need to rotate the cover also, because the rope is coming up to the front. It needs to come up over here. So we should be able to just bolt it on like that, and the holes are going to line up, because this has holes all the way around it. So that's good, but we need to get the ground wire to where it's going to bolt up. Maybe if we come up over here, we can, if we stretch it enough, we could bolt it on there. Oh, no, wait, we can pull it down through here a little bit. We got a little bit more out of it. And it will reach to there. Okay. So that will work. So we're going to go in here. So this should be the last thing that you have to change to make it the same. Is rotating this cover here. Boy, is it raining outside right now. Luckily, I'm doing this in here because I knew this was going to be a project when I started on it. So I decided to work on it inside. And I do want that ground wire back where it was. There we go. Yeah, it does fit back under there. Okay. All right. Choke's already set to start. Boy, that only moves a little bit. I only want you to speed this up a little. So if you want to go faster, you got to turn that screw out in order for this to go over farther. But we'll see how it runs right there. You must check, you must operate properly and check oil every 8 hours or it voids warranty. So you got to document that you're checking the oil according to the hour meter that it don't have. Otherwise you could void your warranty. I'm glad they point that out. Well, luckily I do have a little bit of gas inside here. So I don't have to go outside to get gas. So the next time I go outside, I'm running in the house. So we're going to fire this up and see how this Harbor Freight engine performs. So that should be enough to run. So we got all the wires plugged back in. We'll circulate the engine a little bit before we try to start it. Let the oil get where it needs to go. All right, here we go. So we got the throttle up, we got the choke closed. So it looks like it works. It may be surging just a little bit, but it's cold. But I'd say it's perfect. Of course, the label's a little crooked because I put the handle back where it needed to be. Now, one thing I noticed in the store, on the label in the store, it said that it had a fuel shutoff, which it does not. And on here, it does not say anything about a fuel shutoff. And even on here, 87 plus octane, so regular gas. And there it tells you the size of the base you need. And the shaft is tapped for 5/16/24, same as the other bolts in the back of the block. And yeah, it does not say anything here about a fuel shutoff. So on this engine, on this model, maybe the California engines have a fuel shutoff. Well, I don't think you can even buy them in California anymore. But, you know, it says works on tillers, blowers, vacuums, water pumps, generators. So a nice little general engine. 79 cc's. I think that's somewhere around 3 horsepower maybe. But this one's a success. We bolted on. Had to do about 4 things. So we redid that. And we got to work on the cover for the belt. See if the customer wants that covered. And so we connected that wire. We rotated this. We hooked up the ground wire. And, you know, we had to deal with the shaft being a different length. And not having a shoulder on it for that particular pulley. So I put on 2 shaft collars. And I just got to bolt the blade back on. And depending on what they want to do with that cover, it'll be done. So the owner's going to get the manual here. And they're going to get this other label. They're going to get this quick start guide here. So this is a successful engine replacement for a little edger that they decided that they liked this model that they bought and they wanted to continue to use it. So one of the benefits of this engine here, this actually has a throttle control. Their other engine did not have a throttle control. It just had this to adjust it, you know, where you would set it to where you wanted it. But this one here, depending on, you know, the sidewalk they're working at, they can actually slow it down. So that, I think that's a nice feature that was not on this originally. So, you know, we're going to talk to the customer. We're going to get this wrapped up, get it back to them. And they're going to be happy with it because now it works again with a new engine. And I think this engine has a 3-month warranty from Harbor Freight. But, you know, generally if it runs, it's going to be good. You know, I had one before on a generator that the governor wasn't hooked up. But like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Hopefully the next video is going to be a riding mower. That's the plan. Get back to what I really like to do. And I was ready to put the blade on. And I put it on here. And it fits loose. You know, this blade doesn't fit on here right. There should be an adapter to go in this hole to line it up on there. Or there should be another nut or something, maybe a special washer with a hub on it to hold that. But you can see it was off center already. You know, even this one here, this big washer was off center because it fits on here a lot tighter than this blade does. And there really should be another washer on the back. I'm going to take that off. I just wonder if that's on backwards now that I look at it, because it's got that big washer it does not need. I'm going to get another socket. I'm going to pull that off. It may just be that that was put on backwards at some point. So that's just a regular nut. Then we got that. Then we got that. So that washer needs to be there. And we still don't have any kind of adapter for that hole in the blade. But we are going to put this washer back out here on this side, where it really belongs. So that's going to be good for that, because that's right against the center of the bearing where it needs to be. Then this washer goes on. Then the blade goes on. Then we get this washer. That way we're squeezing two washers together instead of the washer on this side and just a nut over here. So that was wrong from the beginning. But the reason I'm really making this video, besides don't lose the adapter, is I'm going to have to make an adapter to center that. And I just happen to have a 3D printer that I can make a little bushing to go in there. And I'm going to use PETG, which is more durable than PLA. But it doesn't really matter that it's going to be plastic, because it just has to center that. For when I tighten down the washer, the nut against the washer, that it keeps it centered. Once it's tight, that bushing in there that I'm going to make, it doesn't even have to do anything. And it'll probably stay. It'll probably last, because the washers are going to do all the work. It's just to get it centered initially, so when you tighten it down, that it's right in the center, and it'll run true. So we're going to take some measurements here, and I'm going to do it all in millimeters, because the program that I'm going to use, it just works better in millimeters. So the OD, I'm getting about 1593, 1594. Well, there was a 1595. So we'll go with 15.9 on the OD, because with the plastic, it's probably going to be just a hair over anyways. And this is going to be a little bit hard to read. There we go. So for the ID, looks like 1175 I'm getting for the smallest one. So we'll go with 1177 for the ID. So 15.9 and 11.77 is what it's going to be. And then we don't really want to be any thicker than the blade. And the blade is 2.6. So we can go with 2.5 millimeters for the thickness. And that's going to fit inside that hole. It's not going to stick out past the blade, but it's going to fit over here, and it's going to fit inside there to make that a lot more true when it's running. So the owner should notice a big reduction in vibration with this running. So we'll go into the 3D printer, we'll draw it up, and we'll print it and see how it fits. So here's the part that I'm going to make. I drew it up in Tinkercad. That's the program I use to make the part, to draw it up. And then I'm going to put it in my slicer. So after Tinkercad, I put it in my slicing program here. And it says it's going to take almost 3 minutes to print this, which is, pretty quick, but it's a small piece. So I decide I'm going to make more than just one. I'm going to make 3. And in the slicing program, it's easy to just hit clone and type in a number, how many you want. So we're going to print 3 of these. And it turns out that it's good that I did print 3, because I was a little lazy on the setup here. I didn't clean the plate right. One of them stuck the way it was supposed to. The other 2 came loose a little bit. So the two of them are a little bit thin, but that's okay. They're still going to work for what they need to do. And even with printing 3 of them, it's still only about 8 minutes. So it's pretty quick. So here are the bushings on my 3D printer. I printed 3 of them, so maybe there'd be spares. And 2 of them did not stick to the bed real well. That's mostly my fault because I didn't set up the slicer right for PETG. But one of them did stick, and it's a little over 2 millimeters. It's like maybe 2.3. And the other ones are 2 millimeters and about 1.5. So even the smallest one is still going to work. It just, I was rushing. I just wanted to get them done. So we'll go see how they fit. Okay, so we're back out here in the shop with my 3 bushings that one of them turned out pretty close to what it should be. We'll go with the thickest one. And it fits in there. And, you know, it don't need to be the same thickness. As long as it's not too thick. It's a little bit thinner. So the OD is good. The ID, I measured it inside. It's a little close. So we're going to thread it on here. And it already split open a little bit, because it's made in layers. But that's not really going to be a problem, as long as we still get the ID that we need. And the OD, the outside diameter, losing a little bit of thickness, a couple tenths of a millimeter is not going to be a problem. But we'll just peel that out of the way there. Like I said earlier, I kind of rushed on making the bushing. I just wanted to get it done. And now it's a very snug fit. So it's going to have this blade centered real nice. See, there's no movement now on this blade. You know, it fits on there just right. Just like it should. So on the ID, it could be a tenth of a millimeter bigger, really. But the OD was perfect. So now we have it on there where there's no play. So now that blade is going to be nice and smooth when it rotates. There should be no vibration from this end because that blade being off center. So we'll give it another quick start here on the stand, just for the sake of seeing what it looks like there. And then we'll see what the customer wants to do about the belt guard. I may end up making a belt guard, but I doubt it. There you can see it's pretty smooth because now the blade's rotating true. So this may be ready to go back to the customer and out of my shop. So I made another trip to the hardware store. I got longer bolts to put in this cover, and then I also got 2 nuts to put on it, on the bolts. So I used the same sleeves that were on there. There you can see them. That's the original sleeves. The bolts are threaded in pretty far into the block here, but they're not bottomed out. And then I used the nuts to tighten the sleeves against the cover here. Now the cover's on nice and tight, just like original, because you can't let it go without putting the cover on it. Then here's an extra bushing for the blade that I made on my 3D printer. And I also lubed up the spring in here and the shaft that goes through here. So now you can raise and lower this nice and easy. You don't have to struggle to change the height on it. Because if you see, that spring compresses when it goes down. So that means that shaft is sliding back and forth in there. So I put a little chain lube on that, and now it works really nice. So, you know, hopefully the customer is happy with the outcome on this. but it is finally ready to go back.